It's happening again. And again. And again. NATO jets scrambling to intercept Russian fighters and bombers. Denmark, Germany, Norway, Portugal, Turkey and the UK, plus neutral Finland and Sweden, remain on high alert after 4 probes into their airspace this week. Russian reconnaissance of NATO is routine. NATO also probes the Kremlin's defences, but the latest sorties have been on a different scale. Over the North Sea, NATO saw off a flight of 4 Tu-95 long-range nuclear bombers and 4 refuelling aircraft close to Norway. The escorts turned back, but the bombers flew on towards the UK, where they were met by RAF Typhoon fighters. They then flew past Portugal, where Lisbon's aircraft were scrambled. Meanwhile, over the Baltic, NATO aircraft also intercepted 7 Russian fighters on Wednesday for the 2nd day in a row. And Turkey sent its air force to chase off 2 more Russian bombers, which approached from the Black Sea. NATO says there's been 100 incursions by Russia this year. That's a 3-fold increase on last year's total.
NATO remains vigilant and ready to respond, so the numbers of intercepts by NATO aircraft to intercept Russian aircraft have also increased substantially.
NATO's Baltic and East European allies are already anxious about Russia's new belligerence following the invasion and annexation of Crimea and Russian operations in eastern Ukraine. The latest aerial maneuvers by Russia comes after suspicious sub-aqua operations off the coast of Sweden. And this week, again in the Baltic, Russia test-fired a Bulava intercontinental missile. It's got a range of 5,000 kilometers.
The aim is to bring Putin back to the table with big boys of the world to discuss every important regional, global problem. So altogether it's called to restore proper position of Russia in the international system, but to restore it on the Russian terms.
Small wonder that troops and aircraft from NATO have been sent to boost the confidence of allies close to Russia. These muscle moves are clearly intended to impress the West, but Russia's economy is being stifled by Western sanctions imposed after its invasion of Ukraine. Vladimir Putin needs to keep his people focused on the nation's swollen chest, not the enfeebled economic heart.
Very startling announcement from NATO today, Wolf, that they are concerned about some stepped up Russian air activity over European airspace where thousands of commercial airliners fly. Let me put up a map for a minute and just let's leave it up there and walk through what is happening between NATO and the Russians. Over the last 2 days, NATO has monitored an increased number of Russian flights. They have been over the North Atlantic, the Balkans, the Baltic, and to the east in the Black Sea. A number of European air forces have responded. They are intercepting these flights. They are generally Russian Bear bombers with refueling aircraft in groups of 8. Now, here's the problem. They're not doing anything particularly illegal. They are not violating airspace. They are being intercepted. There has been no startling military move. But the problem, they are not filing flight plans, they are not using their transponders, and they are not in radio contact with civilian air traffic control over Europe. This is raising concerns. These civilian air traffic controllers, the commercial aircraft that fly all over the European continent, those air traffic controllers need to know what is out there, and the Russians are keeping silent. It can be a very dangerous situation.
Russia has successfully test-fired a new intercontinental ballistic missile. The Defense Ministry said that their Yuri Dolgoruki nuclear submarine launched the missile from an underwater position towards a testing range in the far east of the country. The 12-metre-long missile has undergone a number of tests and can deliver an impact 100 times the atomic blast that devastated Hiroshima in 1945. The missile weighs 36.8 tons and holds 6 to 10 nuclear warheads. The launch was key to confirming the capability of the missile. This was the first missile launch from the submarine since it joined Russia's Northern Fleet.
It's like the days of the Cold War, an unusually high number of Russian warplanes flying near Europe. Officials say fighter jets and bombers like these may be putting commercial flights in danger. That's what they're saying. I want to show you what happened over in the map. When you see it on the continent, it's quite something to see, as one of our information specialists was just showing me. NATO reports that European countries intercepted more than 20 Russian aircraft over the past 2 days alone. They were traveling along these red lines that you see up here. See that thing? That's a long way. Officials say that the 2 Russian bombers kept going all the way to the coast of Portugal, all the way down here, and then made a loop back. And that's when that country's Air Force took action. Senior U.S. official says Russia is trying to provoke its neighbors because of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Now, you see all these that are highlighted here, all these countries, all of those participated in one way or another in sort of trying to get after these Russian MiGs or whatever the heck they were. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, he's probably going to go take another country. John Bussey is here from the Wall Street Journal, the assistant managing editor there. Is this just a show of domestic I'm awesome? Or what is he doing?
Yes, it's hugely popular at home. Ukraine has been popular at home. He needs to be sure to continue to bolster that popular support within Russia. He wants to be viewed as a strong man. He wants to show Western countries that might be participating in sanctions that there could be a price for those that are a little bit skittish of additional sanctions. Let me send a few bombers and fighter planes and refueling planes over European airspace, not into any country's airspace, but have them circle through Europe, as you were pointing out.
And the Baltic Sea, too.
Yeah, that's right, and cause all of these countries to have to burn a lot of jet fuel chasing me. So Denmark, Germany, the UK, Norway, Portugal, Turkey, all of them had to scramble jet fighters to surveil these planes.
It took a while at Marshall Academy, but the playground bully usually got reined in. What are they planning?
Yeah, well, so this, in addition to probably being popular at home, as Stephen Fiedler is writing in the Wall Street Journal on our website, is probably going to bolster NATO's resolve even further. Now, this is not the first time this has happened. Over the last year, actually just this year, there have been roughly 100 interceptions of Russian planes that are kind of wandering around close to European airspace. That's 3 times what it was in 2013. So it's clear that Russia's tried to send this message. NATO is sending the message that it's going to create a spearhead force of about 1,000 troops. It's going to put it in Central Europe, in new NATO member countries, as kind of a tripwire. If Russia were to do something, you're going to encounter NATO forces, not just the armies of Latvia or Lithuania or Poland, and that would cause NATO's alliance to click into gear to protect that country.
When we were reporting out of Crimea, the fear was some accident would happen and a war would begin. But that's not as serious as it is if you're over in NATO countries, because if an accident happens there and one nation engages, we're all in on this.
Yeah, and you put your finger right on it, which is that Russia doesn't want to create a war with the West. But there could be a miscalculation. They're flying these planes over the last couple of days without transponders, without flight plans, intentionally. They don't want anybody to feel that they're beholden to anyone. But that could result, as you pointed out, there was concern about civilian aircraft. There could be an accident simply because a flight plan has not been filed.
It's not like rebels might shoot a jet with 300 people on board. Oh, wait, that already happened.
That's right.
John Bussey, thank you. We'll look for that reporting at WSJ.com.
One final question. Barbara Starr, a Pentagon correspondent, she reported earlier here in the Situation Room that these Russian military planes are flying over Europe right now in very disturbing ways. They're not using their transponders. They're not communicating air traffic control. This is a worry. What is going on?
Well, there's a concern. I mean, Russian aggression is clear. They have clearly gone on a type of aggression, whether it be in Ukraine. And the important part about this is they're not abiding by rules that have been set up air rules, normal air rules. Everybody follows flight plans, if in fact the report's true. And in fact, the fact that they are flying without any communications. And so that's concerning. Again, this is Russian aggression, and I think they're trying to reassert themselves. I think we have to watch it very carefully. It's important that we reassure our allies. We deployed a brigade over to Eastern Europe, and we now have a heavy brigade that's conducting exercises with our partners, and we will continue to do actions like that to reassure our allies because of this Russian aggression that we continue to see.
Well, good luck, General. Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks for your service, all you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
General Ray Odierno is the U.S. Army Chief of Staff.